So Meploy is a platform that connects people that look for either temporary work or part-time work or even seasonal work. It connects that group of people with companies that look for seasonal staff or just extra help sometimes. We built Meploy around the principle of sharing economy. So we're trying to ensure that we create a new type of business model and new types of connections. We also share 10% of our profits with the whole working community. And on top of it, we also employ everybody. So technically, everybody that works on Meploy is our own staff. The reason we chose a business model where we employ people is because we do want to mimic what already exists on the market. And we've seen that when we started Meploy, we didn't employ. We moved into employment because we saw that there was a challenge with working with freelancers within the blue-collar community. Not many people want to have their own company. On the other hand, companies have both collective agreements, there's employment laws, which kind of regulates the relationship between the company and the worker. And us as an intermediary coming into that relationship, we needed to match something that already existed in order to make it the best possible solution for the market. And looking at what previously existed and exists today, which is the temp agency, we realized that what we can do is by using artificial intelligence or machine learning algorithms, we can replace that work that temp agencies usually do with automated solution. All companies are looking for ways to cut costs. All companies are looking for ways to be more efficient in the way they operate. With Meploy, in terms of staffing, we are way faster than any solution on the market that you can turn to, which means that we can be much more reliable in terms of filling for open positions. We are much faster in locating who's available. We have history of data which we can use in order to ensure that we create better matches between people and companies. So I believe there is a gain to be made everywhere from that perspective. Not everybody is looking for full-time work. Some people are just looking for part-time. Some people can't get into the labor market, but they could get a foot in somewhere and then work a little bit there and a little bit somewhere else, and that could lead to a full-time or equal to a full-time position. And I believe that by fractioning the labor market, we can actually create more full-time jobs with different employers, and hopefully that can in the end lead to a full-time employment with one company if that is what the person seeks. We almost call it like digital employment. So we're trying to figure out ways for people to get into an employment, into a contract, into a relationship without having to meet with us, and also ensuring that we can deliver on the trust. In order to do that, it is quite complex, especially in Denmark, because we have tens of thousands of different collective agreements. And each one has some kind of variation, which means that it's hard to find a pattern of how to standardize everything. So I think in order for more platforms to be able to do that, we would have to see deregulations in terms of collective agreements. And I'm not saying they should be removed, but they should find a way to become more standardized in order so it's simpler both for companies to understand them, but also for the workers to understand the rights, because today they're not written from a worker's perspective. They're written by lawyers, negotiated between the trade unions and the companies. And it's also that language, and it's also that a bit of bureaucracy in it. So I think a simplification of those agreements would be one big step forward in order to facilitate this. Flexibility, I believe, is going to be key in the future, because I believe people are going to move more into flexible arrangements. I don't believe that the idea that we've had for the last 100 years, that you have one employer, you're going to work 9 to 5, and that's how it's going to look like. I believe we're going to move into a labor market which is much more based around the individual and not the collective. And that way the individual wants to ensure that everything adapts to him or her. And that, I think, is going to be a challenge ahead, because that's not how we've seen collective agreements, nor how we've seen employment working so far. I think it's definitely a standardization around the labor laws. The other thing is, of course, how things work on a single market in Europe. Because today we have different labor laws, different collective agreements based on countries and could be even on regions. So I think in order for platforms to become much more scalable, we need some kind of standardization, both locally but also between the countries of Europe.